So today I am here with Brandon Boone from the No Sleep podcast, and we are going to talk to you about how you can actually make some money making music. So Brandon has been doing this for how many years?
With No Sleep, it's been 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. So we got 5 years of experience. Tell us, how did you get started, making music and specifically, getting paid for making music?
Well, I started making music when I was pretty young, like 13, playing guitar, like most teenagers. Mm-hmm. And as that went on, I kind of got into electronica, techno and stuff like that.
Right.
Then at some point, my wife was a volunteer at Cincinnati Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired downtown. And they needed some music for some of their audio plays. And she said, hey, my husband can do some of that stuff. So I did it for them, which gave me some experience. And then I was a fan of the No Sleep podcast, doing the scary stories and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember David Cummings, the showrunner, mentioning that it was becoming a lot of work for him.
Right.
And so I just saw that as an opportunity, and I said, hey, here's a reel of some stuff I've done. And I sent it to him, and he gave me a shot, and I started doing, I think, just one story a week. And then and that was in the season 3 of the podcast, and then by season 5, I was doing all of it.
Wow.
So it went from doing, 3 pieces of music a week to 20.
Okay, so for those of us who don't really understand what No Sleep podcast is, have never heard of it before, what exactly is it?
I think the best comparison would be an audio version of The Twilight Zone or Tales from the Crypt, something like that, where we have this kind of a small meta-universe around these scary stories about... It's got its own tale, with David being the host and, kind of being the dungeon master where he keeps all of us, me and the voice actors and all those kinds of things. But basically we have, a production team and I don't know how, 20 plus voice actors that he can choose from. And we just tell somewhere between 4 to 7 scary stories a week. Mm-hmm. Occasionally, we just did our 10th season finale, came out yesterday. And that was just one 2.5 hour long story.
Okay. So you would say most of how you got this job originally was just from knowing people and word of mouth and kind of being at the right spot at the right time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I think luck is definitely involved. But I think more so than that is just taking chances, taking opportunities. If you see something that you want to go for, just go for it. And, it took some discipline of not fearing failure and just going for it. And, if you fail, you're just right back where you are anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference. And you'll most likely have experience from it. So, just having the nerve to, email David and say, hey, if you want me to do the music, I can do the music.
Right.
And, and of course the show was much smaller back then. So, me doing what I'm doing now is also dependent on the success of the show and it growing and the fan base growing. And, when it started off, it felt like such a small thing when it was just me doing the music and David doing the production. And now we've got 3 producers. We've done 2 national tours. We've done a show in Toronto. It's just been crazy. So I think taking chances and betting on things you believe in and just kind of hoping they pan out.
Right. So No Sleep podcast, this is your full-time job pretty much, isn't it?
For music, yeah, but no, I still have my day job.
Okay. All right. So it's still really not
making money on music
paying
with
all
an
your bills.
Asterisk on it. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We're getting there.
Cool.
Now.
So how long did it take you to get to that point where you could start paying your bills with this podcast?
I would say, again, that it was dependent on how quickly the podcast grew. Mm-hmm. But I think to frame this a bit differently, I don't really, I still have my full day job because I haven't felt the need to quit it yet.
Right.
So what I've been doing is just all the money I've been making from music, be it No Sleep or some small film scores, other theme songs and stuff like that. I just put it all back into my equipment and stuff like that. And I try to build myself up so when that time comes, I do want to take the leap, I'm not going to have to buy anything.
Right.
Because I want to be prepared for all the money from music to go to bills and things like that.
Right.
And not be sitting there like, oh man, I wish I could afford new monitors or something
Yeah.
like that, you know. So I want to have all that out of the way now, you know, while I have the income at my disposal.
So that being said, do you kind of feel like you are, you know, using this to kind of further fuel your love and enjoyment for creating music?
Big time.
Okay.
I think it's and I know you've mentioned it before, and you have to love what you do. And
Yeah.
I love doing this, and using that any money that I make to get different string libraries or synthesizers or whatever it is, it's just giving me more tools.
Right.
And with those tools, you know, I've done 3,000 songs now, something like that. So I constantly need that something new to spark some kind of inspiration. So I'm not just doing the same thing over and over again.
So as you're going through this and, you know, making these tracks and whatnot, do you find that it's hard to now go back and like make like, you know, just regular songs, like floor to the floor type stuff?
Yeah, I think because what this has done for me is it's totally changed how I look at music, and I do a lot of. It's given me a better understanding of music because I'm studying film scores, classical music, stuff like that. So I'm just trying to learn as much about music as I can. I want to learn because I've always wanted to be the guy who can write a song, any kind of song about anything.
Right.
That's why I've always thought composers were so cool, because I'm like,
that's the goal.
Yeah, any movie, any style, whatever it is, they know music well enough that they think, oh, I can do that. You know, they have the idea. So writing a regular song is different because I'm trying to go back to like the more contemporary stuff. I've almost entirely abandoned that side of music. But recently I was, this guy hired me to do a trailer for his short film, and he wanted an original song, you know.
Right.
A lot of those, a lot of trailers now we use like, what was it? Westworld just did a trailer and they used Heart-Shaped Box, and it's like, you know, a cover of that.
Yeah,
they didn't want to do a cover because of legal reasons. And so they wanted me to write an original song that could kind of pace along with that. So I'm in the process of doing that, and I found I could react to things much quicker because my music knowledge has grown so much.
Right.
I knew the options I had to go from there.
Yeah.
But writing, you know, quote unquote, more normal songs. I used to do that, but I never had a story to tell, which is why I like doing scores so much, because I'm helping tell someone else's story.
Right.
So I think that's something to also consider with doing music is look at the different avenues you can take about what you're passionate with. And that's seriously, I have always struggled with lyrics. I always felt they were self-indulgent or unrealistic, or it's one of those things I've never been able to get down. But if I'm doing it for somebody else, from somebody else's point of view, I have no problem with it. I just don't want to tell my own personal story because I'm a very boring person.
Right. So you would say that, you know, finding your strengths and really like expanding upon those would probably be your best course of action.
Yeah, I think if something doesn't really strike an interest with you, don't force it.
Right.
Just try to find another way to do what you want to do.
Okay.
You know, I would love to play music in front of crowds, my own personal music and that kind of, and I have a few songs I like to play, but it doesn't really do much for me.
Right.
I like to be in my house, in my studio, just creating the music I like to create, So,
if you don't mind, roughly how much would you say on average you can make by doing scoring and whatnot, starting out?
Starting out, it's so hard to say because first of all, you have to find people who are willing to pay.
Right.
Which is the hard part. Especially, I think the biggest battle against people like me is that there are just free music libraries everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
So, fortunate for me, I've built kind of a name and reputation through No Sleep. So when these film directors approach me and wanting something original, they want my name on it. So you have to create like a bit of a brand, and then hopefully they'll be the ones who are willing to pay. Right. And so, you know, if you do, it's so all over the place. You start to talk and haggle a little bit, and then I always try to be fair, and I always work on stuff that I think is that I believe in.
Right.
So that makes it way easier
Right.
to take way less money than $100
Right.
per minute.
Like a job you don't necessarily really want to touch.
Right.
You'll quote a little bit higher.
Exactly. So find, and I think for the most part, if you get into this kind of thing, you're just approached with a budget. Hey, we're budgeted, $300 for this short film or whatever. Can you do it? And if you think you can do it pretty quickly, you're making a good profit. So
okay.
I've done 30-minute films in a day. So it's just as long as you're willing to just get in there and just crush it and pump it out and don't mess around too much.
Right. So speaking of which, how long does it normally take you to write? Like about 30 minutes worth of material?
For film is much harder. It just takes way more time because the visual cues is really complicated, especially when you're trying to line up something in a tempo. And if that tempo is off from how the frame's kind of catching the eye, it'll get weird. If it's just writing like general themes for like No Sleep, I can write a 5-minute piece of music in 45 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And a lot of that is just, I don't second guess myself very often. I just, once I find a sound I like, I just keep running with it until I've got, a bunch of different phrases. Then I'll kind of arrange it a bit, get rid of the stuff I don't like and go from there. So it typically starts with just have the idea, write as much as I can without going back and checking it. And then I'll go back and check it and see how it all lines up together.
Right. Okay, so on that topic, what do you use to create your songs? Like what software or hardware instruments or?
Short answer is Omnisphere.
Okay, all right.
No, I've got a bunch of stuff. Omnisphere is just, it's so good. It's so quick and easy.
Right.
I use Logic to record in. As far as other stuff goes, I've got a ton of different libraries. I really like Spitfire for strings, and I just got Hans Zimmer's piano, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
It's all. I think you just start building up stuff, and you find the strength again, like strengths and weaknesses of different things. So I think like Symphobia, I have their string library, and I think that's really solid for pre-created combinations of instruments.
Okay.
So you have like your orchestral pieces of like, the violins and the clarinets together or whatever it is. And then I have some hardware, but it takes so much longer to record hardware, and so I've got a Moog Voyager XL that I love. I don't use it nearly enough. Then I've got a Prophet and a couple other little things here and there, but I'm in the box 95% of the time. Yeah. It's just so much quicker. It's so much quicker than you have to worry about, making sure, because, digital instruments typically sound pretty good out of the box, whereas a lot of EQing on the hardware.
Mm-hmm. So going back to like the financial and like not so fun parts of the job, when you are releasing a piece of music, do you generally publish that yourself? Do you use them as a publisher, or how is that process?
I publish it myself mostly. I've never not owned the rights to my music, I guess.
Okay.
So I think a lot of it is I just use CD Baby.
Okay.
Publish that way.
So do they buy the rights from you, or do you rent it to them? How does that work?
Oh, it's so much more relaxed than that.
Okay.
It's not even, because I'm writing the music for someone, I rarely sign contracts or anything. It's more so of like hiring someone to tile your kitchen or something. It's like a freelance worker, and I'm like, hey, if this, you agree on the amount, you agree on the due date and everything, and then I just do the work and give it to them, and I haven't been, screwed over yet or anything, so that's good. But yeah, I think with like the publishing thing is, like most people, I don't really make any money off of album sales, apart from touring and stuff like that. But it's different because I'm relying on the director or whatever to pay me rather than the fans to pay me. So it's a different kind of like financial route to take. So that's something to consider with the public. Like I put the music out there just so it's out there. Like that's just out of my pocket,
Okay.
Just to get my name out there more, I guess.
Right. So do you make any money from album sales, or
not a lot though. Definitely more so on tour when people can buy like a physical piece of art with a digital code and stuff like that, and they'll have me sign it or whatever. So it's a little bit different than the pennies I get from Spotify and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's such and to your point from your other videos, I think that's the problem with trying to make money off of music is relying on these streaming services and stuff like that to pay. And I think that's the problem with relying on streaming services to pay and to make money that way, because there's so much out there, and and to your point with it being so saturated, I think it's more important to find, if you can, a small base of people that are willing to support you. And even then, I'm not the right person for that, because I don't make much off my Patreon or Bandcamp or anything like that. So it is hard, but I think the physical thing is a better shot than digital.
Okay, cool. That's definitely helpful information.
Even if I just have a piece of artwork that's on like pretty good stock paper with, a front and back cover with the track listings. It's just like a CD minus the CD, basically.
Right. It's something physical that
Right.
people can hold in their hands and that they can bring with them.
Because if you've got Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, it's so disposable.
Right.
How many times have you downloaded an album on Spotify and then like you listen to a couple tracks and just delete it, within 45 minutes or whatever.
Right.
So it's so, everything is it's so churned out so quickly, that you can't really keep up with that.
Right. So you are touring as a scoring artist. How exactly does that work?
It's weird. It's definitely weird. So what we do for No Sleep is we've got, for this last tour, we had 5 actors on stage plus me behind them on a table with my laptop and keyboard and stuff like that. So basically think of, I wouldn't say a DJ, but something like that, where I've pre-recorded all the music and I've got my little, triggering pad that I can trigger different events.
Okay.
And so a lot of the lower end stuff is pre-recorded, and then I'll play the melody or whatever on top on my keyboard, or I'll just leave some blanks, just stop that entirely, just play on, just do it kind of live.
Right.
So it's weird. It's definitely weird.
I think we actually did a
We did that,
performance
yeah, for
piece a
Living Cause,
while
yeah.
back. Yeah.
And that's
something like that.
It's exactly like that, where I'm just in the background, just making music to go along with whatever the audience is seeing and hearing.
Okay.
I'm literally in the background, but people can't see me.
Wow, that's really cool. So do they have like a screen up, or does someone like read the stories, or how does that work?
So the 5 voice actors, they've all got their scripts, and they just kind of do. I don't know if you've ever seen it's like a stage reading where people will kind of just lightly act out the play. It's kind of like that. They're mostly using their voices because they're all voice actors. But there is some gesticulation and moving around and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of just vocal emotion and that kind of thing.
Okay, cool.
Music.
That sounds really, really interesting.
People seem to like it. It's definitely different.
Are you going to be touring again anytime soon?
I hope so. We just wrapped this one, so I think it's. We were discussing it right when we got back, and it was just like looking at a menu after you ate, and everyone was kind of like, oh, I want to wait a little bit longer. So hopefully next year we'll go on another tour. We'll see how it goes.
Cool. Do you have any advice to anyone that is interested getting started in scoring or making money in music, using their talents to do so?
The smartest thing that was ever told to me about this kind of thing was don't charge for your music until you feel it's worth charging for. And so I did a lot of stuff for free. I started on No Sleep for free, as volunteer basis, and then he started making money from the show, and he's an awesome guy, so he started, paying me a little bit more, and I kept getting raises from there. But I think other than that, just say yes. Just try things. If it's gonna eat away a little bit of your life, who cares? So does everything.
Yep.
So just, I don't go out with my friends as much. I don't leave my house all that often, and just that kind of sacrifice and just kind of beating yourself up just to get the work done and just to get that experience, and you make the contacts, and everyone's been at that point where I was at a point where even I was working on No Sleep and I was trying to find any director to work with. I just wanted to score a picture. That's all I wanted to do. It was just something new and exciting for me, and it wasn't happening. And then eventually, someone sends me an email. They ask if I want to do it. I hop on it immediately, and I've been working with that guy for a couple of years now, and he's won a bunch of festival awards, and I've got a few best score awards now from his stuff. So it's just, you say yes to projects, you meet people, and you just don't quit. Just keep going with it. At least that's the best thing I can say. I'm not making a living off of it yet. I'm definitely progressing, so that's a sign, I guess. But just taking that opportunity to just keep going at it and just don't fear failure. You're gonna fail. You're gonna learn from it. It's not a big deal. Who cares? The only person who cares that you fail is you. No one else, really cares.
For sure.
Yeah. And embrace it. Embrace failure. Failing is awesome. It is something that not a lot of people get to do in a way where they get to learn from it and keep going at it.
Yep.
And then when you do have a success, it feels all the better.
Right, and a lot of people just give up,
Yep.
which is why people like us have the advantage, because
Exactly.
we're not going to give up.
Exactly.
So we might find something different to do, but
Right.
that's really...
There's a yearly culling of artists.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
if you just keep staying with it. Literally, I went to PAX East in 2013, a video game conference in Boston, and I went to a seminar about writing music for video games. And the guy told, his main point was the only people he knows that didn't make it are the ones who quit.
Yep.
And that is something that has stuck with me through the hard times, just
Yep.
to keep you going and just learn as much as you can, take in as much as you can. Don't have an ego about it. If someone says your stuff sucks, if it's in a constructive way, hear them out and try to learn from it. If you just keep making the same music that you've been making since day one, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You have to find ways to grow and change
Right.
and evolve, or it's going to be really boring for you and everyone else.
Take what works and use it.
Yep.
And figure out what doesn't work and maybe tweak it or throw it out.
Or cut it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of just, I don't hold anything precious really. If something doesn't work, I just get rid of it. And maybe that's because I'm more cold than a lot of artists are.
Yeah.
But I have no problem with that.
Right. Cool. Well, this has been Brandon Boone from the No Sleep podcast. Thank you all for watching. Is there any questions you guys might have? Anything we could maybe answer for you? Let us know in the comments. Please like and subscribe. I post new videos once a week, so please stick around and stay tuned.